How's it? And welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan battle video. So in today's video, I'm going to be taking on the EZA for TEQ Super Saiyan 3 Broly. In terms of this EZA, the units that he's weak against are the Int-Siblings Bonds units. So there's very limited selection in terms of an optimal team. I would definitely take this Vegeta as the lead. With his EZA, he's 120% lead, which makes him suitable for this event. And then you can see my team build will show up on the right hand side of the screen, and also obviously I'll leave the units up here. So if we're looking at the team, this is kind of my selection. This Goten is very good. I don't have him settled up because I haven't done his essay, but he's a decent option. And then you've got the free-to-play Ultimate Gohan that you could use as well. The main problem with some of the units is obviously you want to avoid like any Android 18s that are extreme type, because generally extreme type units don't count towards having the buff in terms of damage or being able to do their full damage. So you're going to want to avoid the extreme type siblings bonds units and then focus mainly on super type. I do take extreme Toa, but that's just because of her buff that she gives to all allies being super useful. So you can see their tech type also works, so you are also welcome to use the Goten and Gohan LR, the Go Bros. I would say they're siblings bond lead, so if you want to make it super efficient and if you have the Go Bros there, you can 100% use the Go Bros as your siblings bond lead and then build your team around that with a couple tech units thrown in. You could use the TEQ 18 or the TEQ 17 from the Universe 7 category because they generate tech orbs, and they'll probably link up or out and just do a decent amount of damage. So in terms of the unit team I'm going to use this team mainly because it's a little bit more free to play, and also everyone's kind of been summoning on the Dragon Ball Superheroes banner. So that's going to result in us producing a little bit more options in terms of units and everything. So yeah, in terms of the fight, it's really not too hard. The Vegeta's going to do a lot of work. You can't stun Broly or anything at this point, or silence him or anything like that. So you're basically just relying on this Vegeta to do a little bit of work. The Gohan can do some work in tank, and then obviously you're basically just kind of dishing out from there. In terms of the units that you're going to rely on, it's these guys, and then the Super Int kind of Team Gohan High School turning into Great Saiyaman is also pretty decent. He does like 700k, 800k. So he's also pretty decent. I definitely think he's a well-used option because he gains extra attack when fighting extreme type enemies. He can always kind of reliably get a super off, especially since his team's links are pretty wonky. So yeah, he reliably gets his super off. He does a decent amount of damage for this event. I mean, not in general. And yeah, definitely would consider using the Ultimate Gohan paired up with him. The EZA Int Ultimate Gohan, I want to say, is not the best. He's very dated by now, and he's just not going to result in the best of results. So yeah, you can see we are on stage 28, 29, 30. I just kind of thought I'd show you guys how you can finish off the event with that. So you get your stock standard rewards for this EZA. You get your bunch of cars, your tech cars, your tech grand cars, and then you also get your orbs. You get your whole bunch of tech orbs and everything, and you get obviously a little bit of Zeni and the awakening medals. So it's definitely worth doing. Your 30 stones as well are great, and it's just obviously we all love EZAs for this reason. They just give us so much. In terms of the unit, unfortunately, TEQ SS3 Broly literally needs almost every Kai. So if you are planning on using TEQ SS3 Broly, just know that you can't use the cars on other units. You're basically dedicating them to SS3 Broly. So yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate in that sense that he's not got a farmable or anything like that, or you can't at least, you know, use 10 cars of any other, you know, 10 units to raise his SA. You kind of have to use all the cars from his EZA. But I mean, at least that way it makes it worth it, right? In terms of Broly himself, his EZA is pretty good. I'll go through it at the end, but it makes him way more viable than he was before. He was pretty much a useless unit before. Like, you couldn't use him in SS3 SBR, you couldn't use him in TEQ SBRs, you couldn't just use him in events. And especially with the crossover category now, with a potential Broly linking partner on the crossover category in SS4 Broly, he's seen an upturn in usability. I wouldn't say he's a premier top tier unit, but getting dupes in him now doesn't, you know, mean nothing anymore. For sure, he's definitely got a lot of usability. He does a lot of damage, a hell of a lot of damage, and he's just got a very nice toolkit. He's got a lot going on, so it's definitely a unit that I think you could use. You should definitely use him. But yeah, you can see as we're going along here, we're basically just relying on the Vegetas to do the work, with like a little bit of help from their friends, just like the Beatles say, and we're just going to end up cleaning up all these events and kind of just going smoothly from here onwards. In terms of length of time, I mean, it took about 2 minutes around. The early stages were really decent. This team, if you focus, can clear the missions for the 1 minute 30, especially at level 21 and 20. If anyone who knows that there's missions for finishing level 20 or higher of an EZA, finishing a level 20 or higher at 1 minute 30, and then finishing a level 10 or higher at 1 minute 20. So I missed the level 10 or higher because I was not focusing. I was doing something else while I was just pressing buttons. But I managed to get the level 20 or higher, so this team build here should be able to get the level 10 or higher at 120. I just have to go back and actually do that. So yeah, your options in terms of the the category and everything, I think the options are pretty limited. In siblings bonds are your best, but obviously you can run the TEQ Bros. I don't like having EZAs that rely on LR leads, just mainly because it makes it more difficult. It makes it tougher to organize and build the team together. Having units that only have a certain lead or only have like very limited lead options means that you as the player either have to rely on yourself having the lead, or if you have the lead, it's still a bit of an issue for you, due to the fact that someone else may not have the lead, your friends list may not have the lead. It's just quite limiting. I did have the TEQ Bros, but I didn't want to build my team like that. I didn't want to rely on that situation because, well, it's just not really an acceptable or nice way to showcase how to get an EZA done. You can showcase anything with a whole bunch of LRs or rainbow units or etc. It's just not going to assist the average player or assist you guys in getting through the content. So yeah, we're gonna wrap up here pretty well. Definitely don't think there's anything that we need to kind of, I want to say, wager in or factor in that we haven't factored in here. The Broly himself will go through at the end, but he goes to 130% lead, which is very good for tech type units. He gains 120% to attack and defense, and he still retains his plus orb damage and his minus defense when he gets orbs. So the minus defense is not great because it does still lower his defense, and in some events like ESBR and that, lowering your defense is just not helpful because it's just going to increase the amount of damage. Brody kind of counteracts this by just doing a metric bucket, nuclear warhead style level of damage, but it's still not, it's a mixed bag. I would say it's not, the unit obviously clearly improved overall, and is much better for it, but it's still a mixed bag because the unit itself, although it became more of an offensive juggernaut, because it really was still pretty decent offensively, its defense deficiencies weren't, I want to say, remedied to the point where, oh my gosh, he can be the greatest tank. Now, not every unit needs to be that. This Broly does a stupid amount of damage, but it's just interesting because they didn't give him a kit that, for example, makes him a viable nuker or high damage enemy for long run events or anything like that. So he's really, you're really relying on him getting crit hits and getting that additional attack. He gets an additional attack with 3 TEQ orbs, which is good. I would have preferred it to be 3 orbs, just in general. But 3 TEQ orbs is not too hard, especially if you have a tech changer or any kind of orb changer in your team. Definitely going to use him in a couple showcases, show him off, kind of show where he's at. SS3 team, crossover team, pure Saiyans, and yeah, I mean, I think that's all his teams, but still, it's a pretty decent category list. And yeah, main places you're going to use him is definitely SS3, SBR, Extreme Tech type SBR, Extreme SBR Tech Extreme type, and maybe later on in the crossover category you could use him in Pure Sands for sure. There's no reason not to. If you've got him and you want to flaunt him, use him. He'll definitely hold his own in Pure Sands SBR. So yeah, it's a good unit overall. I like this. One of the first 120% lead to get his EZA, and that's a good job. It takes a unit that literally, if you got a dupe in it, you're like, I could maybe use this one too. Oh yeah, no, definitely, he's definitely a good unit. It's definitely something I want to use. He's got a good toolkit. He's now viable in the current meta, and I mean that's really all we want EZAs to do. They don't all have to be equal and even, but we just kind of want them to bring all our units up to speed and let us kind of continue from there. So we've finished the stage 30. We've got our last round of orbs and our tech kais. Now we'll just quickly go take a look at Broly. I will awaken him and give him his Kai for his SA. So we can kind of just get a final look at his stats figure. My Broly has 2 dupes in him, obviously, which makes him quite viable. I'll also show you the build I'm going for on him. So you'll see his stats, pretty good. We're going to train them a little bit up here. We've got 18,000 attack. We've got, close to 16,000 HP. We've got almost 10,000 defense, and this is a 2-dupe unit. Once I put in his extra hidden potential, which I'll do on screen, we'll definitely go there. So yeah, you can see his 130% lead. He lowers defense on attack, which is a little bit bumming. He's 120%, and again, it's plus 12% attack per orb, and only defense minus 6%, which isn't bad. Like I say, it'll take him with support from 100k to 82k, which is not, deplorable. 82k is a respectable amount of defense. It just means you're going to have to use an item for him to tank sufficiently in SBR, which is not, again, that is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to use items, so it's really not a problem. See, the fact that you can kind of somewhat additional orb attack with the tech orbs, I think going for the full crit build is better on him. Crits with a high attack stat really can help, especially in SBRs and things where you're fighting multiple types of enemies. So yeah, definitely gonna go for a crit build on him, which I think this is a decent split, this 9-14 kind of split. If you add crit items, you're gonna be sitting at maybe 24 crit and 9 additional, which I think is a good place to be at. Pop a attack stat on him there, gain the extra stats, put on some equipment, just whatever I've got right now, because I'll be using them later on in an SBR run. And yeah, it's pretty good. I like this Broly. I think he's great.